What begins as a rebellion against an evil corporation becomes much more, and what erupts goes beyond imagination. With vivid landscapes, lush 3D animation and environments, Squaresoft's multi-million-dollar masterpiece is like nothing ever seen before, and it is only on PlayStation. Or at least it used to be only on PlayStation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of our short story series here. And yes, this is Final Fantasy VII, developed by Squaresoft. I know, it's the green bar greatest hits version. I got into Final Fantasy, you could say a bit late. Final Fantasy VII is my first Final Fantasy game. It's also my first role-playing game. And today we're going to go over our story concerning it. So, I had mentioned in our previous part, when I was talking about Myst, that Myst is a game I credit with indirectly turning me into a gamer, because it steered me in particular directions. It is Final Fantasy VII that I create with directly turning me into a gamer. And so let us go through the tale. So, I was a wee little one, and I remember that at one point I had an allowance. I think I talked about this in the first video. And with my allowance, I was saving it up, and I wanted to buy a new game. At this point, I already had a PlayStation 1, and I wasn't sure what to get, but I was thinking about getting a baseball game. Back at that time, I liked baseball. And so I was just saving it up, and I remember that my parents went to a flea market, and I went with them. And of course, I'm a young kid who's got money burning in a hole in his pocket, and I want to see what games I can pick up. And again, I have baseball on the mind. And so I find a video game booth, a video game retail booth at the flea market. And lo and behold, there's a guy selling a baseball game for the PlayStation 1. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I wonder if I can get it. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately in the long run, the game was $25. And I only had $20 at this time. And I asked my parents if they could give me some more money, to loan me some more money. And they said, no, 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 just wait. You're pretty close already to that amount. Just wait, let your allowance build up. And then when you have enough, we'll bring you back and you can buy the game. And I was thinking that the seller might not have the game. This isn't like a store like a Walmart or a Target or something. This is just a guy at the flea market. So there's a good possibility I'll come back next week and the game will be gone. So I talked to the guy, the young little kid that I was. I tried talking to the guy, and I asked him if he would save the game for me, the baseball game. And he's like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I've had people come before to my booth, and they see something that they like, and they want me to hold it for them for a week or two. And so I agreed, and then I get other people who come in, and they see the game behind my counter, and they want to purchase it, and they're willing to purchase it right then and there. And I tell them, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm holding this for somebody. And then the person that I end up holding the game for typically doesn't come back. And so I lose out on the sale. And that's happened one too many times. And so I'm not willing to risk you coming back or not coming back, as it were, and losing out on another sale. And so I understood that. I wasn't happy with it, but I understood it. And so I left, and I was just hoping that I'd be able to save up my allowance in time so that I could come back and get the game. Well, the very next day, my father went to Best Buy and he was looking for some ink for his printer. And so I toddled along with him. And of course, when he goes into the printer aisle, I'm going to go into the video game aisle. And so I went through the video game aisle, and I knew that I was saving money for the baseball game, but I was curious what else was on offer. And so I start walking through the aisles, and a particular jewel case, and you now know what that jewel case is, caught my eye. And it was the cover art, really, that did it to me. I'm trying not to catch the glare here of the ring lamp. It was the cover art that pulled me in. The lone character here in the foreground, the snow in the background, the silvery building here, silvery structure, and I thought this looked really cool when I was a kid. A lone warrior standing with a huge sword. I had never quite seen anything like that. And so I picked it up and I flipped the case over and I read the description. You can see the artwork here on the back. And what really sort of grabbed my attention was the quote from Game Fan magazine. And it says, quite possibly, see if you can catch it there. You can kind of see it. Quite possibly the greatest game ever made. Right there at the top of the case. Again, sorry for the glare. And I was like, really? Quite possibly the greatest game ever made, huh? Interesting. And then you can also see some of the pictures here. You can see the Ifrit summon down over here. And you can see a scene with Sephiroth up there. At the time, I didn't know who these characters were. And you can also see a picture of the airship. And yeah, I thought that the art looked pretty cool. And because it is a greatest hits version, it was $20. And so I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should just get this instead. And then I also noticed, because when I went to pick it up, the case is really thick, that it's actually 3 discs. And I was like, that's a symbol there for the 3 discs. I was like, whoa, there's a lot of game in here for $20. Maybe I should get this. And then I can eventually maybe let my money rack up and get the baseball game another day. I never got that baseball game. But I went ahead and I picked up Final Fantasy VII. And then on the way home, of course, when you're a kid and you're on the way home, you're anticipating playing the video game. And so I already have the case open in the car. I'm looking at the shiny silver disc. I'm looking at the video game manual, and I'm browsing through it. It's a thick little thing, too. And I'm hyping myself up for it. I'm excited. I get home. I pop in the disc into my PlayStation, boot it up. I'm wowed by the intro scene. I love the music. The characters look cool. I'm already getting into the story a little bit. And then I hit a roadblock. I hit the gameplay. And for me, it was mind-boggling. I am a kid, or I was a kid, who was used to gaming on their Nintendo Entertainment System. Well, my father's Nintendo Entertainment System. On the Sega Genesis, the Sega CD, some PlayStation 1 games by this point. And I'm used to action games or platformer games. I'm used to pushing a button and watching my character do a thing. I'm not used to selecting a command from a menu and then waiting for that to happen. To me, it was a bit irksome. It was a bit infuriating. I just wanted to control my character freely and to run up and to whack the enemy with my big sword. I didn't want to have to select from a menu. To me, this slowed everything down. You have to select attack. You have to select items from menus. What is this? Why aren't these all just tied to the button presses like, the standard PlayStation buttons? X, circle, square, and my cleaning cloth for my glasses. X, square, triangle, and circle, or whatever they are, for PlayStation. Uh, and I felt almost betrayed by like, how can this be? Why would a game ever think to use a menu system? Again, first role playing game. And so that got me completely disinterested in the game. That sounds kind of ridiculous now that I'm older and I'm saying this, but that's just the way it was for me. And so yeah, completely disenchanted with the game. I I just turn off the system completely. I pop the disc out, put it back in the case, and I am just sitting there fuming as a kid. I remember I was sitting on the floor, my back against my bed, because that's how I gamed. I didn't sit on my bed. I didn't have any chairs in my room. I just sat like with my back against the side of the bed, and I was sitting on the floor holding the controller in my hand. And I could feel my face getting beet red. I was mad. I was really mad. I was mad, one, because I didn't like the game. I didn't like the gameplay. And two, I was mad because even though I was a youngin', I was smart enough to know that there was no way I'd be able to, even with the receipt, there was no way I'd be able to go back to Best Buy and just be like, yeah, I want to return this game. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not defective in any way. I just don't like it. So you can have it back and I'll take back my $20. I knew that wasn't going to happen. Now I knew I could go to like uh, a secondhand video game shop like EB Games, they were still around back then, or GameStop or someplace similar, and I could trade it in either for store credit or cash. And I think I had done some other trades at that point uh, on some other things in the past. And I knew that, first off, if I got cash, I was going to get less money than trade in store credit. And if I did get store credit, yeah, that would be more, but it wouldn't be the $20 that I'm missing. And there would be no way I could convert that in any way to getting the $25 baseball game over at the flea market. And so it would take me now multiple weeks, in fact, over a month, to save up enough allowance to go back to the flea market to buy that baseball game. And by then, maybe he would have still had it the following week, but after over a month, I'm like, that thing is going to be gone. So I felt that I had wasted my money on a game that I didn't enjoy. I felt that I had missed my opportunity to get a game about something I was really interested in, which was baseball. And I was sulking. I was upset. And I just sat there and stewed for a while. And eventually, I picked up the case. I looked at it. I flipped it back over and I reread that Game Fan magazine quote. Quite possibly the greatest game ever made. And I asked myself, how can this be? How can a game quite possibly be the greatest one ever made when it has a combat system done through menus? I don't get it. I don't understand. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to give the game a second chance. I'm going to pop the disc back into my PlayStation. I'm going to boot it up and I'm going to try it again. And I'm just going to try to push through the first few battles and we'll see what happens. And so I did. And I got past the early game segments, the bombing raid mission at the beginning of the game. And that's when the story really grabbed me. It hooked me and it dragged me kicking and screaming all the way through the rest of the experience. I don't know how long I spent playing Final Fantasy VII my first time through, because the internal clock stops at 99 hours. I think it's 99 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. And yeah, the clock stopped before I finished the game. I was totally immersed in the world. I fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with the story. I got used to and then really liked the gameplay. Um, the music was fantastic. The graphics were charming. And back then I thought they were pretty good. By today's standards, these are pretty bad. But uh, when the game first came out, or when I picked up the game and played it, the graphics I thought were amazing. It's really weird when you look back at Final Fantasy VIII and compare it to Final Fantasy VII and realize both games are on the PlayStation 1 and how much better Final Fantasy VIII looks compared to 7. It looks almost like a complete generational leap, like going from PS1 to PS2, like it's that drastic. But I got this before Final Fantasy VIII came out. So, yeah, I thought it was really great. Um, the game made me laugh. It made me cry. It got me depressed for probably about a month when a certain scene happens in the game. And if you've played Final Fantasy VII, I don't even have to say what that scene is because you already know what that scene is, involving a certain someone. Um, the game just it took me through the entire gamut of emotions, and I never knew that video games could be this deep. I mean, yeah, I had played video games before, but for me, video games were just something else that I did. Uh, I would consider them on the same par as like watching a movie, reading a comic book, going out and playing some basketball. It was just something to do with my time. It was just another form of entertainment, but it was uh no special or I guess I could put it or phrase it, it was nothing of special interest to me. That all changed with Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII showed me that video games could be an art form. They show me that they can move you deeply and emotionally, that they could make you think and feel things that I hadn't realized the medium could do. And the story contained within the game was like nothing I had ever experienced before in a video game. It opened my eyes to the potential of the medium. And from that moment, I was into role playing games. And Final Fantasy VII, even to this day, has a very special place in my heart. In fact, if you look on my rank 1 video game profile, it is I consider it to be my second favorite game of all time, depending on how you define game. Um, Number 1 is PlayStation Home, though you could say that's not really a game, that's just an interactive experience, in which case I would consider Final Fantasy VII to be my favorite game of all time. The only game for me that has come to rival Final Fantasy VII has been Lunar, the Silver Star Story complete. Uh, and maybe that will be our next episode. We'll see. But Final Fantasy VII was a game like none other for me. And even to this day, decades later now, I still think of it very fondly. Its characters, the weapons, the upgrades, the personalities, the side quests, the emotion that's wrapped up in all of the characters, the search for identity, the search for belonging, the search for love, hope lost, hope redeemed. Just there's so much heart in Final Fantasy VII, so much longing and angst, so much beauty, and so many different forms in Final Fantasy VII that it turned me into a gamer. And from that moment on, I always wanted to prioritize playing video games as a form of entertainment and art in my life, and I've done that. And I continue to do that, and I'm hoping to do that for the rest of my life. Uh, Final Fantasy VII has, like I said, opened my eyes and made me a true believer in the power of video games. And so if you want to join me for any of my adventures, you're more than welcome to, either here on YouTube. I also stream on Twitch. The link to both of those should be somewhere on the YouTube page. And yeah, I'll see you again for episode 3 in time. What it will be, not sure yet, but it might be Lunar. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Thank you again, everyone, for being here, and I'll see you again soon.